G'day everyone, and welcome back to DownTime, where we talk about all things Dungeons & Dragons. Once again, I am joined by Wade, who is my co-host for this, and we are talking about two of the new roguish archetypes released in Xanathars.
Archetypes in question being Inquisitive and Mastermind. Now these archetypes are quite interesting.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed reading them, and I'm already starting to bring up ideas for them, which is so bad.
Yeah. Now, if you're looking for combat-focused, like making a combat-focused characters, I don't think these archetypes will suit you.
Mastermind might, but only to a certain extent, and it'd probably take a decent amount of multiclassing to actually pull off something effective with it.
Yeah. So, both of these classes are quite good outside of combat for gathering information.
Yeah.
Which is sort of unique because a lot of classes don't have things like this.
That's very true. One thing that I really liked, though, especially about the Inquisitive, is just the fact that the higher the level the Inquisitive rogue is, the more difficult it will be for the DM to fool the party.
Yeah.
And I just found that really neat. So do we want to go through all these abilities one by one?
Sure, we'll start with the Inquisitive. So the first one that they've got is Ear for Deceit.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, when they choose this archetype at 3rd level, whenever you make a Wisdom Insight check to determine if a creature is lying, if you roll a 7 or lower, it gets treated as an 8 instead of what you roll.
That is really powerful, in my opinion. Like, I'm not terribly sure how that would work with fumble rules, so Nat 1 is, a critical failure. I'm assuming the Nat 1 would override it.
Yeah, I guess that's up to the DM. I certainly feel that having that would still make it interesting, so it'd make it that you can still fail.
Yeah, that is still really powerful, though, especially early game with the things that are on lower DC.
Yeah, and especially if you have a high wisdom.
Definitely.
If you have a 5 wisdom modifier, which means that you got perfect 6s and you had a race which gives 2 wisdom. I'm not sure if there is one.
Elf, I think.
Yeah, so if you have that, that means that regardless of your roll, the lowest insight check you can do for checking if something's lying is a 13. Which is, depends how cruel your DM is with the DCs.
Here's the question, though. By treating a roll of 7 or lower, do they mean the natural roll or with the modifier?
When it says roll, I think the number on the dice.
Yeah, you see, that's what I assumed as well, but I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, there's always a few things in these books that they don't really specify about.
That's a good thing, though, because it leaves it open to interpretation.
Yes, except for some stuff that you sort of want to know, like with the magic arrows for the arcane archer and whatnot.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the next ability. It is called Eye for Detail. It's also a level 3 ability, which basically means that you can use your bonus action to make a Wisdom Perception check to spot a hidden creature or object, or to make an Intelligence check to uncover or decipher clues. So, from that ability alone, I'm just starting to get a very detective type vibe going on. I as a player think something's not right, and I feel like my character would feel something's not right, so I'm going to check to see if something's not right.
Yeah. When I was reading through these, all I could think was really analytical. I can imagine, people inspired by Sherlock Holmes could have a bit of fun with this class.
Yeah, I had actually been thinking along those same lines.
Yeah. So yeah, their first 2 traits, they do have another 3rd level trait, which is quite strong for combat, but those first 2 are, one of them can be used in combat, most of that is really role-playing and investigation and whatnot, which I think is really cool. Not a lot of classes have that option.
Yeah, the use of eye for detail basically allows you to. I feel like making checks for hidden creatures and like perception and investigation checks, those type of things. I get the feeling that in combat they'd technically normally be classed as an action. So allowing them as a bonus action through Eye of Detail is really good.
Yeah.
Because it opens them up to other things, like they could dash over to something to check it out.
I'm not completely sure, but does it need a target?
Maybe?
Because, like, I can imagine, you getting ambushed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Say you roll pretty high as Inquisitive. Would you be able to do Eye for Detail to try and spot your ambushes? Or would it be... Because it says spot a hidden creature or object. Would you have to know that they were there, but they just used the hide action?
I feel like it might be more along the lines of you're checking that general area.
Okay,
especially because it's a perception check, it'd be like you're just looking in that general area. That's how I interpret it anyway.
Yeah. So their next ability, this is the last one at 3rd level, is Insightful Fighting. Basically, as a bonus action, you can make a Wisdom Insight check against a creature, and then they contest it with their Charisma Deception check. If you succeed, you can use your sneak attack against that target even if you don't have advantage on the attack roll. It doesn't negate having disadvantage though, so if you have disadvantage you can't do it. And it lasts for 1 minute
so 10
or
rounds.
until you 1 minute or until you use it on another target. So it's one thing at a time, but that is pretty strong considering sneak attack is sort of one of Rogue's like main mechanics.
That'd be especially powerful on high levels. I don't quite remember what the sneak attack gets up to. I think it gets up to something really crazy. But I would personally subclass into an Inquisitive Rogue. Like, drop 3 levels into Rogue to pick that up. Just for the Insightful Fighting on specific characters. Because that type of thing of being able to get inside your opponent's head and figure out what they're doing is something that I've kind of wanted to do with a character for a while, and there hasn't really been a proper mechanic based around that.
Yeah. So, for those that don't know, what sneak attack does is once per turn you can deal an extra 1d6 damage to one creature you hit with an attack that you have advantage on. Now, advantage can sometimes be hard to get, so not needing it is pretty good. Of course, it also has an inbuilt thing where if the target is within... Sorry, hold up.
Is within 5 feet of a hostile target, I believe.
Yeah, so you don't need advantage on the attack roll if another enemy of the target is within 5 feet of it.
Yeah. So, Rogue typically makes a good combo with something like a melee-based fighter of sorts, because it's like, you just keep them distracted. I don't care how, you just keep them distracted, and I will just keep stabbing them in the back. Cool.
Yeah, and sneak attack does scale very well. At level 20, it's 10d6.
Ouch!
Yes, and you get that every turn.
Only on the first attack, though.
Yeah.
That's important.
Okay, so next up we've got Steady Eye, which is at level 9. You get advantage on any Wisdom Perception or Intelligence Investigation checks if you move no more than half your speed on the same turn.
So this is another thing that would be technically useful in combat, because they're mentioning turns.
Yeah.
I see it having some application outside of that, though, because technically you're at disadvantage for passive perception checks and all that when you're moving at your normal speed. because
Yeah.
you're not really paying attention. Meaning have to be. I think the technical ruling is you'd have to be moving at half speed to get your normal modifier. So if you allowed that to have sort of a passive ability where it grants you passive advantage just while you're generally traveling, which would just grant you a +5 to your roll, well, to your score. When moving at half speed, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Not terribly sure how useful it would be, though. I mean, how often do you see people moving less than half their speed?
Yeah. That's a good point. Unless the person...
Especially in order to perform a check like that.
Yeah. Unless the person is, like, intentionally moving half their speed for a certain reason.
Yeah, that's kind of the only reason I'd see that working. But
Yeah.
still, that's really good because you could factor that into like when they're looking around for clues, like in a small room, or even I'd say trying to pick up animal tracks. Like some people probably argue that comes under nature or survival, but at the same time, you could probably still use your wisdom and investigation to be able to determine this looks like it's been disrupted. This kind of looks like a paw print here. I see another marking over there.
Yeah. Steady eye also, like, straight up just improves eye for detail. Because it's both the same checks.
That is very true. Although eye for detail is on very specific instances, while steady eye isn't.
Yeah.
Then the level 13 ability is called Unerring Eye. By the way, I just love that most of their abilities have eye in their name. It's just very fitting, I feel.
Yeah. We're not even done with all of them.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, basically makes you a pain in the butt for the DM to deal with. Because you can sense the presence of illusions, shapeshifters, illusions and shapeshifters who are not in their original form, and any other magic designed to deceive senses within 30 feet of you, as long as you are not blinded or deafened. You can sense any effects that are attempting to trick you, but you gain no insight into what is hidden or into its true nature. Okay, so it's not as bad as I initially thought. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum of once. And you regain all expended uses of it when you finish a long rest.
Yeah.
So, first thing that I'm noticing about this is the charges based on wisdom modifier. Basically everything about the Inquisitive is screaming to me something that I haven't really noticed in rogues. Or rather, noticed a need for in rogues, and I'm really glad they have, which is now technically a choice to have a high wisdom and have a bunch of abilities that focus around that higher wisdom.
Yeah. I'm sort of glad that Unerring Eye is not a passive.
Yeah, that's true.
Because unless the Inquisitive Rogue is constantly using it, the DM probably still could trick them. Because you don't meet a new guy and you're like, something's not quite right. I think it's a shapeshifter.
Yeah, but that being said, it's just an action, so as long as they're not in combat, they can technically just spam it. Up to the number of uses.
Yeah.
So it'd be wasted pretty quickly, but...
Last but not least is Eye for Weakness, which is their 17th level one.
Which is super good.
Yeah, you learn to exploit a creature's weaknesses by carefully studying its tactics and movements. While your insightful fighting feature applies to a creature, your sneak attack damage against the creature is increased by 3d6.
So that brings the total up to how many at level 20?
13d6.
Oh, jeez. That is really good.
I'm not so sure. Considering you get 10d6, like, from being at level 20, it just feels a little weak that, like, the level 17 trait is just 3 more dice.
Yeah, I can see where that's coming from, and it's only against creatures that have the insightful feature applied to it. I mean, the insightful fighting.
Like, it is still really strong because there is no cooldown.
I feel like I feel like it's thematically fitting, and now that you've mentioned it, yeah, it could be a little underwhelming. Because it's only technically an extra 3 guaranteed damage, but at the same time, that's the equivalent of the highest mundane enchantment available, which is +3, so it is still pretty good.
It will also make you feel like you're playing like Warhammer 40k with how many dice you're going to have to roll.
God. Or a wizard.
Yeah.
Firebolt. Or is it Fireball? One of those ridiculous number D6.
Yeah. So that was the Inquisitive. I think they're really cool. They're very analytical.
I'd be willing to try different. One out. I don't know why, but for the Inquisitive type thing, I'm getting for just a character concept a very sort of cowardly person that they don't really talk much, so they're sort of shy and awkward. But they're just constantly thinking and observing, and the amount of useless garbage that they tell people, like after they get to know them. Like, I saw you doing this the other day, and they're like, what the hell are you doing?
I don't know, when I think of the Inquisitive, I think like really in your face, like incredibly confident, like, you know, the detectives from all the movies, or, you know, someone that just won't take no for an answer.
Almost an air of arrogance about them, I'm guessing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that how rogues are?
Maybe.
Not really.
Okay, so onto the Mastermind then. The Mastermind is actually a very interesting rogue archetype, however you want to pronounce it. God, I say that a lot. I personally wish that it had been included a lot earlier, because there's a lot of stuff in it that I just want to use.
Yeah.
So the general description is they focus on the influence of secrets they have. So they're like spies, courtiers, schemers, all that type of stuff. I guess we'll start with Master of Intrigue then, which is one of their level 3 abilities. You gain proficiency with a disguise kit, a forgery kit, and 1 gaming set of your choice, so you might already have proficiency with the disguise or forgery kit, but, you know, it's still pretty good. You also learn 2 languages of your choice. Additionally, you can unerringly mimic the speech patterns and accent of a creature you hear speak for at least 1 minute, enabling you to pass yourself off as any native speaker of a particular land, provided that you know the language.
Yeah, so with Mastermind, like this first ability is definitely a support focus thing where you can find stuff out. I do think Mastermind is more combat. Like, it has more to offer in combat than the Inquisitive, but it definitely has a very strong support thing. Also, rogues like money and being able to gamble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I really like about Master of Intrigue, though, is because it basically means if you don't have a bard, you still have somebody that is going to get you in the door.
Yeah.
So it's like, we don't have someone that we can charm our ways in with, but we have someone that we can trick our way in with.
Yeah.
So it's just another way of getting around different obstacles, and I really like having that option.
Yeah. Next up, we have Master of Tactics. So another 3rd level one. You can use the help action as a bonus action, and its range is increased to 30 feet when you're aiding an ally in attacking.
Yeah, that's only when aiding and attacking.
Yeah.
So using help as a bonus action might actually see the help action getting used a bit more.
Yeah.
On top of the extended range, especially for attacks, like if the rogue is using daggers, daggers have an effective range of 20 feet, I believe, and they're not affected by the sharpshooter trait. So if they can't manage to get over to an opponent in time, they can use their help action to grant an ally that is coarser advantage on that attack, as long as that creature is still within 30 feet.
Yeah, they also need to be able to see or hear you. With 30 feet, that's not too hard.
Yeah, that's not too hard.
But yeah, so for people that don't know, help in combat in particular just gives advantage.
I believe that's just help in general. It gives advantage on the check.
Yeah, so, but like in combat, it gives advantage on the attack roll.
Yeah.
And then help when out of combat, or when... I think you might even be able to do it in combat, but basically it makes the next ability check have advantage.
Yeah, that's basically what it does. One thing that I noticed from Master of Tactics is you could just have a Mastermind standing in the background with another rogue fighting up front, just constantly applying advantage for sneak attack.
That could actually work.
Yeah, it could, and it's a very interesting idea, because you could play it off as sort of this master-pupil type situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Insightful Manipulator at 9th level.
Mm-hmm.
This is similar to one of the traits that fighters have.
Under the Battle Master, I believe.
Yeah. So if you spend at least 1 minute observing or interacting with another creature outside of combat, you can learn certain information about its capabilities compared to your own. The DM tells you if the creature is your equal, superior, or inferior in regards to 2 of the following characteristics of your choice: intelligence score, wisdom score, charisma score, class level if there is any, and at the DM's option, you might also realize you know a piece of the creature's history or one of its personality traits, if any.
Which is a similarly large list to the Fighters version. The Fighter gets Strength score, Dex score, Constitution score, Armor class, current hit points, total class levels, if any, and Fighter class levels, if any.
Yeah. The main difference I see between these two is the Fighter. It can be used quite well for combat-based encounters.
Yeah, like if you get a drop on
the health and the AC, right, of a creature is really helpful. I feel like the Insightful Manipulator is definitely meant for more of the roleplay.
Yeah, I'm getting that vibe too, especially with at the DM's option, you might also realize you know a piece of the creature's history or one of its personality traits. So it's like you're observing a target for what is technically a roleplay encounter. I don't know, maybe you're trying to trick them into falling for a scheme or something, and you basically assess their personality and then you approach them.
Yeah. Now, possibly my favorite of their traits.
Yep, misdirection. Yeah.
Beginning at 13th level, you can sometimes cause another creature's attack to go to another creature within 5 feet of you. So, if a creature within 5 feet of you is granting you cover against that attack, you can use your reaction to have the attack target the creature instead of you. Now, with cover doesn't work in melee, does it?
Depends on the type of melee. Like, if they have reach, so say the attacking bloke has a halberd, which I'm pretty sure has reach, and he's stabbing around his ally to get at you, because, it gives him 10 feet instead of 5, then I feel like you would technically have cover there, because there is something directly in between you.
Yeah.
So it really depends on how they are working in the melee.
Yeah.
I've never really seen creatures being used as cover before. I guess I have prevented some attacks from happening by saying, you do know that if you fail, you might hit such and such. That was earlier on when I'd first started DMing, though, and I don't really do that much these days.
Yeah.
It might be a close call, but it will never actually hit someone, because it's just mean to punish another party member for somebody else's failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I think it's a really cool thing, especially if you're trying to, like, if you're versing a bunch of archers, but they've also got melee dudes.
Yeah.
Like, I think it'd be so cool, just like, you're a mastermind, you're getting attacked by these pesky melee scumbags, and you sort of just, step behind one, and then suddenly he gets hit in the back of the head by an arrow that was meant for you. Or maybe you just, like, shove them a little, and then they get hit. It's a really cool, like, flare thing.
Yeah, you trip them and you kind of grab a hold of them and pull them in front of you to take the hit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of options that you can do with that. And
Yeah.
then, finally, the level 17 ability is Soul of Deceit, which basically means so that unless you want your thoughts to be read, they can't be read. And you can present false thoughts by succeeding a Charisma Deception check, contested by the Mind Reader's Wisdom Insight check. And additionally, on top of that, no matter what you say, magic that determines if you are telling the truth will always indicate that you're being truthful. And you cannot be compelled to tell the truth by magic, which is basically a counteraction to Zone of Truth and spells like that.
Yep.
Yeah. I like that this ability is a passive ability, though, because it means you don't have to spend an action to make your mind appear blank. It's just like, your mind always appears blank unless you want someone to read your mind.
Yeah. And it's definitely cool being able to misdirect a mind reader, or misdirect someone that can
use magic to detect lies.
Yeah, because, like, say the party's trying to infiltrate some, like, religious cult or something. The whole cult has to believe that you told the truth, because that's what the truth magic said.
Do you think that would work against a sonogram?
I don't know. Probably not.
Sonogram's not magic.
Yeah.
That being said, I feel like if you're in a setting where lie detection machines that aren't magical exist, I'd probably change that a bit to allow for it to be like you regulate your breathing and your pulse to make sure that it doesn't show that you're lying.
Yeah. Well, when it says Soul of Deceit, I just think everything that sort of can.
Like almost psychopathic levels of being able to deceive people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or is it sociopath? It might be sociopath.
I don't know. So, when you think of Mastermind, what sort of character do you think you would make?
My initial thought is evil, but at the same time, you probably wouldn't need someone evil. I'm not really sure with this. Like, I have a few ideas, but I'm not terribly clear on any of the options I have yet. I feel like a mastermind might be arrogant, or it might be a older, more experienced type person that's directing people using the Master of Tactics and using their less than legitimate contacts to aid people.
Yeah.
What do you get?
I've got sort of two archetypes that I'd normally go. Like, when I think of them, I either think of a really intense commander-style character.
Yep.
Using your Master of Tactics to give advantage to people, like, barking orders at your teammates. Maybe having a crossbow and, like, not being exactly in the fight.
That'd work really well with a multi-class. Like, I'd go with up to level 13 in Rogue and then dump 7 levels into Fighter.
Yeah.
With the Combat Master.
Yep.
Because you have a lot of superiority die options for aiding allies under Combat Master as well, so if you're going for that type of character, it'd be a really nice way to sort of build up the flavor as well as trying to sell the fact that they are experienced in what they're doing.
Yeah. Now, there's two other character archetypes I can sort of think of. One you already touched on, which is like an older, more experienced, maybe an old assassin or something.
Yeah.
But the other one is, the really arrogant character that sort of tries to lure people into attacking just to use them as cover, just so the arrows hit them in the back of the head.
You love making arrogant characters, don't you?
Yeah, it's, people say that, your D&D characters have some facets of yourself.
It's true.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to touch on?
Not really, except for just under the rogues in general. I love the inclusion of the optional features like the guilty pleasures and the adversaries and benefactors, because that just adds a lot of role-playing opportunities as well as a lot of different things that the DM could work with. Like with the adversaries, it basically gives the DM an immediate option if they want to add in, say, a rival.
Yeah.
And then benefactor is just an easy out for a quest giver.
Well, yeah, I do like the idea of guilty pleasures as long as the player is willing to go along with it.
Yeah.
Like, a smile from a pretty face. Like, if they actually, stay in character, and like that, they'll do stupid shit to get what they want.
Yeah,
I think
and then
really cool.
The chance to deflate someone's ego. Like, I imagine a very high charisma rogue just going out of their way to destroy people in debates just to crush their ego.
I can already see it now.
Yeah.
My next character.
Oh god.
Yeah, if you're looking for a new, like, role-play heavy class, or subclass, archetypes.
Yeah, rogues definitely have good options for that.
Yeah, they also do have 2 good combat options, but we will probably go over them in another video.
Yeah. Holy crap, this video was already really long.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we'll call it there then.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for watching, guys.
Yeah, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or want to share any of your opinions on any of these classes, or ask if you want us to do a specific archetype next, then feel free to drop it below. Tell us how we can improve. Tell us if you liked it. Tell us if you didn't like it. Tell us if you got bored and left at the 5-minute mark, although you wouldn't be able to hear this if you did. Anyway, cheers, and we'll see you next time.
See you.